All right, my name is William Bowles. I want to thank everybody for coming on the Zoom tonight. We have a special guest, Byron. He has a story to tell everybody about his amazing experience with this iTeraCare device. Before I get started, before we start the Zoom here, there are no medical claims made about this device because it is not a medical device. So it does not cure, mitigate any disease. It is a physiotherapy device. And again, it is not a medical device, and we make no claims about it being a medical device or being able to cure anything. So I want to give this over to Byron and Byron John. Thank you for coming on tonight. You've got an amazing story, and I'm so thankful that you and your wife decided to share that with the iTeraCare Pripe International world. And please tell us what happened. And I just want to make one disclaimer here, though. If you're squeamish in any way, the photos that you're about to see are very graphic, and I think it's necessary to show what this man has been through to see these. He's done a great job putting that together here tonight. So Byron, we'll go ahead and let you take over. Thank you again for coming on.
Okay, everyone can hear me just fine, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I appreciate the opportunity to tell you all about my story of my leg and its recovery. Let me just say from the onset, I don't think that I've got a market on suffering. Everybody's got a story, but I think I've got a pretty good story myself. So just a little bit of background. I'm 68 years old, and for the most part, I've been a very healthy person all my life. I've enjoyed being outside. I enjoy sports, and I've had a really nice quality of life. But on October 6th, 2021, so that's almost eight months ago, everything kind of changed and came to a halt. So here we go with the graphic pictures. So on that day, I was up on a roof of a gazebo, measuring it for some metal roofing to put on it. And long story short, I fell off of that roof and landed on some scaffolding, hit the pole, the end pole of that scaffolding, and it just kind of peeled my shin right back. And yeah, it was kind of scary. So you can see that's bone right there, and this is muscle, and if you're knowing body anatomy, you can see a lot of stuff going on right there. While I was in the hospital getting stitched up, the doctor told me, shins are terrible to heal. They're notoriously slow healers because you have poor blood circulation to that part of your body. And that gash was 9.5 inches long, and took 25 stitches to stitch it up. I was kind of naive of the situation. My body's always been a good healer. And I thought, you know what, in about a month, I think I'll be just fine and be going about my normal activities again. And boy, was I wrong. So 1 month turned into two turned into 3, and now, like I say, I'm going on 8 months and probably still have a little bit of healing still to go. So one of the problems with my leg is, like I mentioned, that part of your body just gets very poor blood circulation. And I got a lot of frequent infections, had 4 different infections. I did some calculating, and I figured that altogether I was on antibiotics for 83 days. That's a long time to be on antibiotics. Including my last infection was a staph infection. I was on for 35 days, 3 times a day, getting intravenous IV infusions with a PICC line to my heart. Also, during that 8 months, I've been on painkillers almost the entire time. That's the only way that I've been able to deal with the pain and especially sleep at night. So after 5 weeks, they consider a wound. If it hasn't healed up by then, it's considered a chronic wound. And that was certainly my case. Let's see, I think I skipped one slide. I did. What I wanted to show you here is after 5 weeks, all my skin was dying around the wound. And it started to smell. I told my wife, gosh, I can hardly stand to be around myself. It's starting to stink. So I knew I was in trouble when my leg turned gray and all of this started going black. So after those 5 weeks, I started going to a wound center at a hospital. I had weekly visits, and I went to those every single week for 21 weeks. Just to let you know a little bit of the cost of that, I was charged $544 every single visit. And then if they did something special to it, like a skin graft or maybe a little bit of surgery on it, that was an extra charge, so very expensive. What they typically do with a wound like this at a wound center is, first thing they had to do was tear off those scabs. So after 5 weeks, scabs are a detriment, and they actually seal in the infection and don't let your skin close up. So the first thing they're going to do is, the doctor just kind of got his thumb and his thumbnail and just kind of pried up underneath those scabs and tore them off. And yes, it hurt. It hurt. And then also, as part of the weekly infections, is you have a lot of dead skin. That's what you see here on the yellow parts. So he'll get a little scalpel and he'll cut off all that dead skin. And then, of course, that leaves it real gruesome looking and bloody. So they do some chemical cauterizations, and that's what this gray bubbly area is. You might be wondering what the purple is. Of course, this is all covered with a bandage. A wound to heal its best should be moist, but not wet, and not dry either. As it gets too moist, it tends to destroy the edges. See that little bit of white right there? It tends to destroy the edges of your skin. And so this purple is a protection so that the wetness of the wound doesn't weep out and destroy this outer perimeter. So I did that for 6.5 months. Wasn't too much fun. At 6.5 months, I thought I was just about over the hill, and my wound was probably within 2 weeks of healing up. And for some crazy unknown reason, on the side of my calf, it started boiling up almost like a boil, looked like it was going to erupt. And within days, I had full-blown infection, and it developed into what they call cellulitis, which does all sorts of tissue damage. And my you can see how red my leg is. It was beet red, really from my toes all the way to my crotch. You see these markings on here. So every day they would kind of mark the leading edge of the infection, and it just kept creeping up and up and up. And as it got up towards my crotch, I was getting a little bit worried there. You might wonder about the color. The truth is, in photographs, it never looks as red as it really is. So you might think, gosh, I'm exaggerating the redness of it. Believe me, it was way, way more red than it shows up on these photographs. So these were in intensive care. I was in intensive care for a full week and on IV infusions the entire time. And I was so sick during that period, I didn't take any pictures. I just didn't care about anything other than trying to survive. And I was very close to losing my leg. One night they brought in 2 orthopedic surgeons, and they were starting to talk about surgery and what to do about this. And yeah, I was worried. So this is probably a week out of intensive care, and part of the infection is starting to go. You can see my ankle and the upper part, the infection is starting to leave. But this area around the wound just never would clear up. It just stayed red and looked angry and not good. So 5 weeks after intensive care, I went to my infectious disease doctor for my 5-week checkup, and this is what it looked like. It was red, it was swollen. This doesn't look like much right here, but that's kind of where the infection originated, and I mentioned that idea that there was an area that was kind of boiled up and looked like it was going to erupt. That's the spot. So that area is kind of spongy around it. Some things I didn't expect is my leg swelled up to twice its size, and all of my skin fell off repeatedly. I think I've probably gone through 5 layers of skin now. Seems like as soon as I get a new epidermis, it peels right off again. And that's from the heat and inflammation. So anyway, the doctor looked at this and he said, you know what? It should have been better weeks ago. And the antibiotics have done everything they're going to do. I just do not think your leg is ever going to get better. So the cellulitis has caused a lot of tissue damage. You have weeping capillaries and probably some damaged veins. And yeah, I just don't think it's going to get better. So I didn't believe my ears. So I quizzed him again. You mean my leg will never get better? He says, no, I don't think it ever will get better. This is how it'll be for the rest of your life. So needless to say, I was pretty depressed and dejected. There's a lot of emotions that go along with something like this. Many of you will be very aware of it. During those first 6 months, I had a lot of downs, very few ups, because the darn thing just wouldn't heal. And it seems like every time that I got my hopes up, I was just disappointed. And then I would be depressed for a few days, and I had a hard time working out of it. But when I went into the intensive care unit, that was a whole new ball game. I was kind of hanging on by my fingernails, at the first six and a half months. But after that, oh boy, it just brought me to a new low. So I left the hospital feeling numb, very disillusioned with the medical system. I was angry, and I was afraid to hope for anything. I felt hopeless because every time I'd put my hope in something, it was just dashed into pieces, and then it would devastate me. So I was very much in a emotional, mental, physical, and even spiritual crisis. And thank goodness for the iTeraCare product. It's put a smile back on my face, and I have hope again. And it really was, to me, a miracle what it's done. So when I got home from the hospital, a dear friend of my wife, who is a dealer with iTeraCare, she knew of my journey and all my struggles with this leg, and she actually gifted one of these devices to us. So when I got home, there was a package on the door, and I didn't know about the product or what it did. And my wife showed it to me after a couple of days, And she showed me the promotional video on the website of how to use the device. And here you see me kind of using it. So I told my wife, you know what, I'll try this, but I'm not going to be optimistic about it. I'm not getting my hopes up. Because like I said, every time I did, I was disappointed. So I put it on number 2 speed. And this was the worst of my spots, that abscess looking area. And I just held it right there for about 10 minutes and did this for 2 times a day. After 3 days, I was looking at my leg and I screamed out to my wife. She was in the other room. I said, honey, come here. You won't believe this. My leg is actually getting better. And I could see that the redness was leaving and the color was looking more normal. And that abscess looking area was starting to dry up. So that gave me some renewed hope. And I stayed with it for another 3 days. So after 5 days, this is what I saw. Again, this was a couple of days before my doctor's visit, and I didn't start the product for a couple of days after his visit. But after 5 days, you can see how the color looks so much better, and the inflammation, swelling. So I knew at that point that it was working. And so I was so excited I texted all my family. So here's a text that I sent to everybody. I'm hesitant to show you this yet because I don't want to get too optimistic this early, but here goes. 1 week ago, the doctor told me that my bad leg would more than likely be permanent. I just got this new machine that blows warm air through some crystal tubes that has a wavelength frequency that heats your tissue down to the bone, improving blood circulation. I've used it 2 times a day. Look at 1 week of use has done. I am impressed. And here's a couple of the texts that I got back. These are from my brothers. You know, and they had seen my wound the whole time. They knew what I was going through. Wow, Byron, your leg looks so good. What a difference. Keep using that machine. Really seems to be working. And then my other brother, holy cow, what an impressive improvement. Why were you paying those doctors? I kind of wonder that myself sometimes. One thing that I heard in the promotional materials, the video, is that often people, as they first start to use the device, they'll have a healing crisis, they called it. And what they explained is sometimes your problem area will feel worse for a little period before it starts to get better. And remember how much drugs and antibiotics I had been on for months and months and months. In my case, what it was doing was flushing the drugs out of my body. So when I would urinate, I could smell the drugs, and it was even kind of coming out of my skin. So I started to get a low-grade level of hives, a rash almost all over my whole body, and I knew that it was the drug residues. And so I just kind of reduced the time of my treatments, kind of tapered back for some days. But I had those low-grade hives, I'll call them, for 4 or 5 days. But it was worth it to me because I knew all those drugs needed to come out of my body. Okay, maybe a bonus round. This is something I really did not expect at all. So after I saw that my leg was starting to look better. In the promotional video again, it said that it helped with ED and prostate problems. And I've had a prostate problem probably for 10 years, and I'd have to get up, in the night and urinate and things like that. So I thought, you know what? What have I got to lose? I think I'll give this a try. So I kind of did the blower in my prostate area for 2 days. I only did it for a few minutes, maybe 3 minutes per treatment. And gosh, within 2 days, suddenly I could feel kind of some rumblings down in there, I'll call it. I could tell something was happening. And it was like something had turned on, and all of a sudden I was like 20 years younger and things were working great. So that's something I didn't expect, but boy, I'm very happy. And, I've tried dietary supplements for ED, and they've never seemed to really work very well. So this was amazing to me. The maintenance of this has been very easy for me. It doesn't seem like it takes very much to get things going or keep things going. So I'm only treating it about 3 minutes every other day, and it seems to be sustaining it really well. So I've been on this device about 2 weeks. I'm definitely still experimenting and learning better ways to do it and how to use it and what it will do, and I'm super happy. So my bottom line is my leg is definitely getting better. Every day the inflammation, the swelling tends to go down a little bit more. And I've noticed a real burst of energy. This has let me get outside working again. I love to work outside in my garden and be an active person. So it's given me kind of that burst of energy that I used to have. And I guess maybe most important of all, it's put a smile back on my face. And gosh, I feel like life is good again. So that's my story. I think it's a good story.
Definitely.
It was so dramatic.
Wow. Thank you, Byron. This is very emotional. I can see it's an emotional subject for you. This is something you've been dealing with for 8 months. And hey, the bonus round, that's probably putting a smile on more people's faces than yours.
Yeah.
People. So, it's a wonderful product. And, we are so thankful, Byron, that you took the time to come on and tell us your story, and in such detail, because, a lot of people looked at these pictures, and of course there's doubt, because it is such a dramatic change. And, Krill mentioned that you could literally see it getting better as you were doing the treatments. It was just something that blew you away, and literally, no pun intended here with our blower, but, you didn't have any expectations about what it was going to do for you. And I love that.
I was very doubtful, had no expectations. Yeah. That's partly what was so remarkable about it.
Yes. So, and that, a lot of people think that, this is a placebo effect, and I'm sorry, but, even if it is, praise God, because it worked, and everything, your life is turned around now, and it's amazing. So we definitely expect an update from you and some more pictures showing us what has transpired here. But already, the before and after from a week of use is just phenomenal. So appreciate it. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No. I'm just thankful that I found it.
Definitely. A lot of people are.